warcore, the new fashion trend gaining popularity in the TikTokosphere. It's straddled somewhere between school shooter chic and guerrilla fighter glamour. Some of the staples that of this style include faux bulletproof vests, tactical cargo pants, and exactly one color option, black. So my question to you, is this political fashion or is this attention-seeking shock factor?
Y'all didn't know. When you invited me on today, I fucking love fashion. This shit is dope as hell. I'm like, yeah, like, you know, I think it's great.
Can't you tell? Look at him. Look at him.
Look at icon. I'm wearing a raggedy old.
I'm not so sure about this.
Raggedy old hoodie and this hat that my mom bought me. Shout out to my mom for this hat.
Who we learned last time is also Craig's therapist.
Look, I think fashion is not that complicated. Let's let people fucking dress how they want. That being said, fuck this, man. Fuck this.
So you think
I think it's ugly as hell. I think they should be able to do it, but I think it's ugly as hell, and it's promoting this dumbass violence.
So wait, do you think it's political fashion or no? Do you think it's political?
Yeah, I guess. Sure.
Do you think it's political do you think that the people who I was going to give away my stance and say who perpetrate this aesthetic on like mainstream culture, that it's political for them or in the interpretation, it can't help but be political or both.
My thought, I'm asking if it's political for you see a person walking down the street, an average person, maybe a low tier Instagram influencer. Like for them, do you think they're being political?
No, I think they're just dressing because they think it's cool. But, you know, the amorphous powers that promote this and organize this, it does create that societal acceptance of military gear and the fetishization of it. If somebody could say that word for me, that'd be helpful. That makes it so we do, as a society, love the wars, love the military, love bulletproof vests.
Shay and I were talking earlier, and I think for me, it what's the word I'm looking for? Like normalizes struggle for the sake of struggle. It's like just it creates this kind of mentality of like, oh, like the struggle is ongoing. We're always in the streets fighting, but like there's no objective other than like that. It's cool. It's like a signifier, right? It's just like it's kind of like a fashion shibboleth where it's just like, you know, like okay, like the fucking far right, like they wear their camo and like they're in Walmart. I'm like, ooh, I see you. And then they're like the other ones are like, you know, fucking like walking by, they're like in Starbucks in all black, you know, like ready for a fucking tear canister grenade to come through the window. So it's like, I think it just kind of like obfuscates like what the point of it would even be. And it just turns it into like a signifier.
It's different classes doing the same thing, right? When somebody in Alabama wears camo, sorry to the people of Alabama, but when a far right person,
but that's tactical. That's not warcore.
You say tactical because
that is true. That is true. That is tactical. Great word. I hope, is that a real word? I love it. And when somebody does that, it normalizes the military in our everyday lives. And when a influencer in Southern California wears warcore, it still normalizes the military in everyday lives. It's just doing it in a different way.
Well, I'm curious if you think it normalizes military or militia type ideas, because like there's part of me that thinks, okay, if we can get a bunch of like left-leaning fashionistas to be slightly more okay with the idea of arming themselves maybe against I just don't think it's cool that only the right gets to play with guns and hate a fascist government I want the left to be just as cool, being like, you know what, if Donald Trump fucking won, he would have not only the US Army, he'd also have the fucking Proud Boy militias like at his call. Like, I want the fucking Socialist Rifle Organization to have like a bunch of fucking TikTokers who are like, no, dude, I have a legit bulletproof vest, fucking gas mask, and you know, my AR. I'm ready to go take down the real fascists, you know. And like, I'm wondering if this, I don't think it does, but I would love to imagine somehow that this allows people, like, this is like the gateway drug to being like, do I like being anti-fascist? Like, is this cool? Like, check, I look so fucking cool in my bulletproof vest. Like,
I love how Shay earlier was like, is it problematic that we're normalizing this? And he's like, I think we should all get bulletproof vests.
Yeah, I want to voice my opinion here. I am against.
Boo.
I just put that on the record.
Lame. Thought you were cool,
Sorry.
Craig.
I think you're on a watch list somewhere.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. We're trying to get our view count up. We figured. I don't know. All right. So for any listeners who aren't familiar with exactly how warcore defines itself, we went straight to the source, techwearoutfits.com. There's even a hyphen in it, which means they're a legitimate website. They define warcore as the rise of military tactical equipment in fashion. In a growing quest to bring functionality to clothing, warcore retains the codes of techwear with technical materials and functional garments, taking military design to the extreme.
Is that an oxymoron?
Which part?
Taking military design to the extreme, and then I do want to pass it off to Eric because I feel like I've cut her off like 3 times now.
I think it's like less self-aware than that. Like I think that I understand that based on that summary, it's under the auspices of utility, but I get the impression that the dystopian fantasy that fuels this fashion trend is only possible because the people who are engaging with it don't realize that we're already fucking living in a dystopia. Mm-hmm. Just because it doesn't yet look everywhere like Neil Stephenson or I know that like that our aesthetic for dystopia, wasteland, like that, that kind of thing, like Mad Max, like all reaches back to like the 60s. And so it's like pretty well established. Like I think that there's like a lack of awareness of the fact that like we're already there. Like we're already on like the brink of ruin. Like,
Eric, we're not even close. I feel like there's still food and water. I think we could go so much lower.
I feel like it's just it's engaging with a fantasy of like an end of the world that's much more on the nose. You know what I mean? Like we're waiting to like cross this threshold where there's desertification everywhere and we're fighting over water and we need our bulletproof vests and whatever, and it's like that's cool.
That is
but
the
like
male fantasy, right? Is that we get back to actually, instead of podcasting and sitting at my desk all day, I get to go out and search for water and hunt again. I mean, I don't want that, but I assume many other people do. I agree with you that we're in a dystopian place. And people should realize that, but that, I just think we could go so much lower.
And I think we will. I just think it'll be really rapid. And I don't think anybody will be thinking about fashion like as it happens. You know what I mean? Like I think that's the like fantasy part. But I also want to say that like I can't rag on this like exclusively as a former goth kid. What I will say, I do have to stand up for them on the principle of that. While it may make people uncomfortable, and that may or may not be part of the thrill of dressing this way, I think it's probably all over the map. I do have to sort of stand for their right to do it, but also. I think that there's probably an element of empowerment. Like for me personally, as a like teenage woman, dressing in a normative fashion in the late 90s did not bring with it a feeling of bodily security necessarily. Whereas, transitioning to wearing trench coats and 20-eyed Doc Martens might have been polarizing at times, but it also did give me a feeling of strength and protection. And so I do think that there's probably a good physical empowerment argument here that should be respected, even though I think it looks dumb and I'm old enough at this point that I'm not worried about sounding old by like saying that it's ridiculous. I know I'm old, like it's fine. I can live with that. Like aesthetically, I think it's terrible, but I think on some level I can understand it.
And this is why I started with as a fashion lover, let the kids dress how they fucking want. I might think it's dumb as hell, although I'm on the site that Shay recommended. I want to buy some of this shit. I mean, I know I couldn't pull it off and fuck most of the warcore bullshit on there, but there's a couple that are like, hey,
right?
I think that looks good, man.
Dude, it's interesting because so one of the articles, there was like a Vice article about it, and they interview this woman who lives in Chicago, and she says, she's like, when I wear like I'm paraphrasing, when I wear like day clothes, I go out and I get all these inappropriate comments about how I'm dressed or whatever. But she's like, when I wear a bulletproof vest carrying around a fucking katana, no one fucks with me. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm like, I get that. Yeah, I can totally get the sense of you're just like, hey, I feel pretty safe right now. People are fucking terrified of me. Like I get there's like an aspect of that. And there's
I also feel like that's like a breach of the social contract. Like I'm on the subway, I'm like scrolling, my phone or whatever, and then I look up and like 3 teenagers with fucking samurai swords get on the train. I'm like, fuck, I'm getting off on the next stop. Fuck this.
I feel the same way when people aren't wearing masks on the subway, frankly. I'm like, oh, you fucking asshole. Like, God damn it. But, but to one of the points Eric mentioned, it does seem like people, like, this is like for the goth aspect. Like, I feel like in the when I don't know. When I was in high school, dressing goth was cool, and I remember it felt counterculture. You were rebelling against something. Like you were seeing something on the wall. You're like,
you didn't know what, but you were against it.
You didn't know exactly what, right? But I feel like it was like whatever was normal, you didn't like that. And I feel like what we see now, like with warcore, it's a rebellion in the same sense, but it's like a prepared rebellion. Prepared rebellion, where you see you're seeing the writing on the wall and you're reacting like one of the people, so kids wear this in fucking school, which I find terrifying. There's this guy, Tyler, he's a TikToker.
But that's what somebody would have said about us in our trench coats. And then me in the 90s, you and
oh, sure.
Thoughts. But yeah, I mean, there were, when I was scanning the internet for just recent articles, it really, it smelled, looked, and tasted the same. Like it felt like, middle-class white parents who were terrified of their kids worshiping the devil.
Sure. Well, I feel like it's a lot more reasonable to be afraid of your kid going in and shooting people than it is to be afraid of them worshiping the devil or like getting shot by someone else who thinks that they are a shooter or something. I don't know.
I'm just picturing that mom like, sweetie, are you going to leave your katana at home today?
All right. So before we move on, after having this conversation, Craig, Eric, warcore, good or bad?
All fashion is good.
I unfortunately, I have to say good. I would be a hypocrite if I didn't. It's hard. It's really, really hard to take that stance.
I love that we can hear it in your voice, how hard that is for you. It's just like, oh no.
Thank you. Thank you for seeing me.
I just want to know, like, taking military design, like, what's more extreme than the clothes you wear to kill someone? Like grave digging? Like, what is the beyond?
I mean, that was the thing about like the goth argument, though, too, was like there was this like veneration of death and morbidity, and like it didn't make a lot of sense either. You know, like it also had like a weird bleakness to it that it seemed, even at the time, to be like a bit risque to romanticize.
Right.
But I think like with all aspects of visual culture, it's a mixed bag, even, both for like the person who's like creating the look and wearing it and for the person who's receiving it. And I think that tension is what makes it interesting. And I think it's a good thing that we aren't sure how we feel about it. Like, I think that's just a sign that we're alive and we live in complex times and we're being thoughtful.
I actually think Eric is making my point for why I believe we should experiment with bag babies under the guise of fashion, of just, we got to do something. I guess let's fucking go.